any of you are in church soon, make sure you light a candle for these series so that they can hopefully make their way out of purgatory. Also, I don't know religion and I probably shouldn't make religion jokes, so please don't cancel me anyways. Hi everyone, Rosie here. Welcome back to my channel. This is the last installment in my series on series. If you missed the first two, I will link them up here. But basically, I ran through all of the series that I'm currently reading, so I've read at least one book from, that I want to first. I went through the ones I want to finish, so series that look forward to seeing more here soon because I'm going to talk about them more. I want to read these. Then there was the series I'm definitely not finishing. That was a short list. You know me, I can never be too negative. And initially, that was supposed to be the end of this series. It was just going to be a little two-parter. So yes, I started classifying, and then I realized that there were so many that I couldn't put in one or the other. I was going to end up with either a yes list that was 25 series long and a no list that was 5, or a no list full of series that I was probably going to take back my word on and eventually read. What I realized was that there were a lot of series where I don't want to read it this year necessarily. It's not one that I'm super prioritizing. I can't wait to get to this, but also I am interested in continuing. I do want to know more. I want to read the sequel. It's not that I'm not interested, it's that there are so many books in the world that I want to read and I can't get to them all right now. And it felt really unfair to put all of those books in the no list. Anyways, without further ado, I've got, I think, 7 fiction series and 2 nonfiction, something like that. Let's dive in, talk about the ones that maybe I'll get to. Maybe as I work series off the first list, I can move some of these up and actually read them. So without further ado, let's get to all my book series that are currently waiting in reading purgatory. The first series on this list is The Memoirs of Lady Trent by Marie Brennan. This is a fantasy series set in a world that's sort of like Victorian Europe, but like it's not the same countries, but it's got kind of similar type vibes. And in this series, there are dragons. At the beginning of the first book, everyone thinks dragons are super rare and like there's barely any of them left, but there's this young noblewoman who is absolutely in love with them. She's obsessed with them. She wants to study them more than anything else. And of course her family and society go like, "Oh darling, that's not what young women do. You're getting married." So she gets married, and thankfully she has a very sympathetic husband who she gets along with well, and in the first book they end up going together on a mission to study some dragons in remote mountains. We experience the whole story from the point of view of this lady, Lady Trent, as an old woman writing her memoirs. So we know from the beginning that she is going to be successful in becoming sort of David Attenborough, but for dragons. And we go in seeing how she gets to that point as opposed to will she, won't she succeed type thing, which I thought was really cool. I really appreciated that perspective on this sort of story. As you can probably tell, I really enjoyed the first book in this series, and I think there are 4 more, but I thought the first book ended in a place where I could be pretty happy with the ending for a while. It didn't leave off at a point where I was desperate to know what happened next. And also there was an event towards the end of the last book that made me really sad, and I really didn't like it, and I wasn't sure if I wanted to keep reading the story. I think I do. I can wait. This one's not urgent. The next series I feel a little bit hypocritical including on this list, but is the Hercule Poirot series by Agatha Christie. I don't think this one needs any introduction. It is, of course, the series of novels featuring Hercule Poirot as the detective. So many of these are so famous. There's 45 novels and I think a whole slew of short stories. Basically, there's loads of them. Like I said, I feel a bit hypocritical including Poirot on this list because I read 2 novels about him in December. I'm currently, as I film this, reading a short story collection about him in January. I'm also not looking to prioritize these books at all. The series on the yes list are the ones where I really want to read more, but I'm just having trouble fitting them in and having trouble making time to read them. The Poirot novels and Agatha Christie in general, for me, are far, far more mood reading, comfort reading when I need that. So I never have any trouble fitting them in. I never go, oh man, I really need to read the next Agatha Christie. I just have moods where I'm like, I want to read some Agatha Christie, and I pick one up. So you'll probably still see this series a fair bit in my wrap-ups going forward, but don't expect to see it too much in my TBRs. I never planned to read Christie. The feeling just hits me and I need to read Christie. I'm on a bit of a theme right now because the next series that I want to get to someday is the Kate Shackleton series by Frances Brody. This is a series of what I would call cozy mysteries, but they're cozy mysteries in the Christie sense, not cozy mysteries in the kittens and bows and that type of sense. Where was I? This is a series of cozy mysteries set in England in the 1920s, starring Kate, who was a nurse during the First World War, and I think her lover or fiance, possibly even husband, died in the war or has PTSD and like doesn't even know who he is anymore. It's been a little while since I read the first book, I'm not positive. Essentially, I read the first out of 12 books in 2020. It was really cute. We see how Kate is sort of establishing herself as a detective and tracking people down after the war, you know, who've like families who've lost touch with their sons or trying to figure out where people are or if they died or not type work, I think. It doesn't sound very cozy, but it's a very cozy feeling mystery in the book. And she gets called on by a friend to help investigate a murder, and of course, that's the start of everything, I guess. The first book was fun, and I might pick them up someday if I get so fed up with Hercule Poirot that I need to turn to something else for that type of reading. But I also just don't feel particularly drawn to them or particularly like I need to make it a priority to read these. They're more like, that might be fun to pick up at some point. I'll keep it in mind for when I'm in the mood for this sort of thing, but I'm not going to seek it out. I told you there was going to be a bit of a theme. Next up, I have the Maisie Dobbs series by Jacqueline Winspear. This is another series of cozy mysteries, radically different this time because it's set in 1929 going forward. And our detective is Maisie, who started life as a serving girl, made her way up to a student at Oxford, I think also served in the war as a nurse, because legit every female detective working in the 1920s or 30s who's not old served in the war as a nurse. Even Phryne's not exempt. I mean, I forgive it. I think it's great. I love it as a story point. Maybe someday I'll have to do a video about all the series with this trope. This one's a bit different from a lot of this type of detective story that I read though, because Maisie actually trained under a famous private detective in like the methods and art of deduction type thing, and is now branching out to set up her own practice. So she's actually a professional detective from the start working this type of case. I've read the first out of 16 books, and similarly to the last series, it was fun, but I don't feel super drawn to it. I think I would definitely enjoy reading more at a later time, but I also don't feel any desire whatsoever to buy them all and just binge read them for a month. And one last cozy mystery series, the Lady Emily Ashton Mysteries by Tasha Alexander. You will not believe the number of times that I got Ashton and Tasha variously mixed up before I gave up. I want you to know that I tried. These, however, are incredibly different because they are set in the Victorian period. These follow Lady Emily, who was widowed at a very young age after she married a viscount that she barely knew and was sort of like, it's probably for the best that he's dead now. Not in that she wanted to kill him, he got killed in some accident or something, and she was like, actually, being a widow is pretty sweet. Strangely enough, I can't really say anything about the earlier books because I managed to accidentally read the 9th book in this series of, I think, 16, and only the 9th. This is sort of the total opposite of the last two series. I really enjoyed the book that I read, even picking it up halfway through the series, and I want to go back and buy them all and read them all. It's just that I very much feel that once I start reading these, I'm going to need to just take a month or a month and a half and read nothing but these so I can go back to back to back until I'm done. Which, like, don't get me wrong, pre-booktube, I might have thought about doing. It's how I read the Phryne Fisher murder mysteries series the first time, and the second time, to some extent the third time. Just be like, right, it's June, I'm just gonna read Phryne all month. And it's super fun, but now I sort of feel like, maybe I shouldn't do that. Maybe like I should make varied content and you don't want to wrap up that's just me saying, I read a series. On the other hand, maybe you do, and maybe I should think about doing that at some point in the future. But as you all know, I have so many books that I already own that I want to read, so I'm not doing that just yet. Switching gears a bit from detectives to criminals, I would also, at some point, maybe like to read the Gentleman Bastards series by Scott Lynch. This is a series that currently has 3 books in it, but I know there's something like 7 planned, and it's been on the order of 7 to 10 years, I think, since the last book came out. So that's part of why I'm not super keen to get into this. In case you don't know, the Gentleman Bastard series is the series that starts with the Lies of Loch Lamora, and it's about a band of criminal brothers who were raised together, but they're not like actually related. They're all orphans, I think, who were raised together to be thieves, and their charismatic leader, Locke Lamora, who's like the ultimate Gary Sue con artist. Is BookTube gonna come for me for calling Locke Lamora a bit of a Gary Sue? I don't know if he actually is, but like if I were gonna write one, it would be like this. He's just like the super talented con artist, which I don't know if I've mentioned this before. I actually love anything that's about cons or heists or like that type of crime. Not in a committing crime way, obviously. Don't do crime, kids. It's bad. But like in a TV or books sense, I love reading about and watching that sort of stuff. So I really enjoyed the first book. But there's some pretty big things that happen at the end of the first book, and I just couldn't get gripped into the second. I'm really sure that if I could give myself the time to get into the second book and get back into the flow of things, I would love this series. But knowing how many books haven't come out still, I'm a little hesitant to get so gripped into something that I might want to binge. I don't know why I'm pretending that that's an actual concern. You've seen these videos, you know how long it takes me to continue a series. But let me legitimize, okay? Essentially, maybe someday, maybe if like he ever finishes it or like distinctively says, right, there is no end or something like that, I'll give it a try. But for now, I'm just not ready to try again. The last fiction series in Purgatory is the Detective Inspector Chen series by Liz Williams. I read the first in this series, Snake Agent, over my birthday this year. I will link the vlog up there in case you're interested in checking that out. And it is a supernatural urban crime novel where our detective works with the police and solves supernatural crime, and also there's like big things afoot between heaven, earth, and hell. So it sounds like the plot's gonna be there's a different crime in each one, but maybe they're all linked together. I liked but didn't love the first book, and if I'd had less series that I was really excited about, this one might have made the yes list, but there were so many other series that I thought should get priority, so that's why this one ended up here. It's a very true maybe. Maybe I'm interested, maybe I'll get to it, just maybe. I also have two fiction series that are possibles for the future. The first of those isn't even technically a series. It's The Story of Australia's People by Geoffrey Blaine. I think this is technically one book in 2 volumes, but when each volume of your book is something like 600 or 800 pages, I feel like you've got to accept that I'm going to count it as a series at that point. That's longer than a lot of 5-book series. I don't know if that math checks out. Please don't at me. I really enjoyed the first book, which was all about the Aboriginals of Australia from their arrival on the continent tens of thousands of years ago through basically 1850, so through the early part of English colonization, and then the second volume is 1850 through present, early 2000s, whenever the book was written, basically. And as I said, the first half was good. I liked it a lot. Definitely want to read the second someday. It's just that there's so many nonfiction books I want to read, and there's so many big, chunky nonfiction books that are going to take me most of a month that I want to read, and that I already bought, that I'm not in a huge rush to pick this one up. And on a completely different tone, I would maybe someday like to finish the Corfu trilogy by Gerald Durrell. I had never said that name aloud until I sat down to film this, and it is hard to say. This is half nature writing from the point of view of a child and half funny life memoir type thing. Durrell and his family spent 6 years of the 1930s living on the island of Corfu in Greece. They're an English family who, I can't remember why, money reasons maybe, just being a kind of strange family reasons maybe. This woman who I think was widowed and her 4 children, I think, just sort of decided, hey, England's kind of cold and rainy. Let's go somewhere that's not cold and rainy. Anyways, like I said, this was a funny book. I listened to the audiobook of the first one 4 or 5 years ago now, and it was enjoyable enough, but I didn't feel any need to read the rest, if that makes sense. I enjoyed it while I was listening, but it didn't make me go, I want to pick up more of this. And this is similar to the last one. There's so many audiobooks I want to read of so many types, and I mean, I guess I could read the physical books, but like, the point stands. It's not something where I feel like I'm desperate for more of this in my life, and if I am, there are other things I want to try. It's almost dinner time when I'm filming this, and my brain is just thinking food, so let's stop that metaphor there. And I guess let's stop talking about these books. Or not let's stop talking. Let's keep talking, but let's do it down below in the comments. Let me know, have you read any of these? Did you DNF any of these series? Are there any you think really deserve to be on the yes list? If so, make their case. You know I love growing my TBR. And as always, if you liked this video, please hit the like button. If you would like to see more of my videos, please hit subscribe, and thank you for watching.